Hi guys, welcome to the daily dose of news with On the Pulse with Silky and whoever's having their morning coffee. Good morning to you, and let's start. There is a new hazard map, a new hazard assessment that has been updated just today, and the reason why it has been updated, so it seems like that the Met Office has followed the police chief of Sirens and that they have updated their hazard map after he had made the decision that residents of Grindavik can go back to their town 24/7. And we will look closer into this, why that is, and what does that mean for businesses in Grindavik. They can return also 24/7. Everyone needs to have a barcode, so only people who have businesses and residents can enter, and to an extent also the press, but they need to apply for a barcode as well. So why that decision? Well, there has been a lot of pressure from residents. They have filed lawsuits for violation of their civil rights to use their properties that they own. The businesses filed something. They said, we want to be open. And of course, probably due to recent activity at the Blue Lagoon, residents were angry. I mean, if you look, the Blue Lagoon is opened up as quickly as possible, gets a new road right away so that they can get their tourists back in there ASAP. And the businesses in Grindavik, they're being sucked dry. They are basically locked out of the town, although they only need to go an access road in. And then most businesses, the bigger businesses, are around the port area. And so the businesses are saying it's relatively safe, let us in. And that has happened now. We will also look into that public announcement. So after that was announced, they did change the hazard map. So it seems like police chief of Sirens made the call and Met Office kind of followed. So they are saying, and that is also important in regards to the next eruption. So they are saying the model calculations that they have conducted suggest that the magma accumulation that is currently taking place again in the Swartsengi area underneath the power plant and the Blue Lagoon, the magma chambers filling back up again after the last eruption, that it will have reached a similar level as it had before the last eruption by the end of February. So today is February 20th. February has 28 days. So in 8 days. So they're saying by the end of February, beginning of March. So we're talking about a week. Are we talking about 2 weeks? But imminent, right? We're not talking about a month. So let's look what they're saying. So these hazard areas that we used to have before have been extended, and they added one more area, zone 7, if you look at that map here. And you might wonder, does that make sense? These are just basically like open fields. Why have they added that? And I think it's because the Blue Lagoon is building a new road, and they have to take other areas to get the tourists to their Blue Lagoon, because the main access road, Grindavik has been destroyed by a lava flow in 2 areas. One up north that would allow the tourists to go back home to Krysuvik airport or to Reykjavik, and to the south, right at the entrance to Grindavik. So that has been overflown, and you can't fix that quickly. So the lava that has flown at the entrance of Grindavik, that has destroyed the hot water supply for Grindavik coming from the Swartsengi power plant. And the other one that happened just recently, that is north, has cut off the hot water supply for a large area of the Reykjanes Peninsula. So that has been restored by now. The one to Grindavik is still leaking, and Grindavik is still without cold water. They're hoping that they could restore this until Thursday. So now the people can go back 24/7, but they don't have cold water. So no toilets, no showers, no nothing, right? And the heat pipes are leaking. So the plumbers that went into each individual home a few weeks ago to turn on the thermostats so that the homes would not get like frost damage, put the thermostat in a way that it's not really comfortable to live in there in the cold winter, but just enough so that the pipes would not burst. And they're telling residents, do not touch the thermostats, leave it that way, right? So this updated hazard map, the Icelandic MET Office is saying that it is following the decision of the National Police Commissioner to repeal the order of a temporary evacuation from Grindavik. So that is lifted. Wow, guys, right? And it took effect on February 19th. That's when they made the decision. So they changed the access restrictions for both individuals as well as business operations. So I think they gave in to the pressure of the businesses and residents. So this updated hazard map is valid starting February 20th at 7 a.m. And the Met Office keeps saying, which is the same time as the decision of the police commissioner in Sirens goes in effect. So this zone 7 that I have talked about has been added, that's what they're saying, in consultation with the civil protection. So there's a road that's called Nesvegur. This is in zone 7, and this road is currently used a lot more than before to access the Swartsengi area and Grindavik as well, because if you look at the map, the one that goes from south to north, Grindavik is useless right now. So there's two roads from Grindavik basically along the coast, one to the west and one to the east. And the one to the west is of interest because that way you can get to the Keflavik airport or to Reykjavik and to the other more settled areas. So that map shows all the hazards that are currently at hand. So all the zones, you see zone 3, that's where we had the last eruption. You see zone 1, basically where you see the letters zone 1, that's where the Swartsengi power plant and the Blue Lagoon is. And you can see the darker area, you can see the lava flow that has flown over the pipeline, like north of zone 1. You can see the old lava flows from the past other 2 eruptions. And they have added like zone 6 that's going more towards Fagradalsfjall, and zone 4 is Grindavik, and then that large zone 7 is where you see the road that is leading along the coastline. And you can see these like lines that are there, these are fissures, right? So there's lots of fissures going there, so it doesn't look super safe. So that's why they're saying do not run in open fields or anything. So the hazards in zone 7, the Met Office says, are fault movements and sinkholes as well. And in this new map, the color codes of the other areas remain unchanged from the previous hazard map. The land rise underneath Swartsengi continues with a similar trend like the last few eruptions, so we've known that. So that land rise is taking place where you see the letters of zone 1. And what has the police commissioner in Sirens, what have they announced today? So the director of the National Police, that's what they're saying, has waived the orders of evacuation for Grindavik as of February 19. And they're saying that this decision comes with authorization from their Article 24, that's the law on public defense. That decision means that the police chief has decided to allow residents of Grindavik and those who work in Grindavik to stay and work in the town 24/7 with knowledge of the following. So very important, and they put this in bold letters. Residents and employees enter the town at their own risk. Each person must be responsible for their own actions or inactions, meaning not evacuating early enough or something, right? Like it happened in the Blue Lagoon when they were evacuating at the last minute when the eruption had already started. So the police chief makes clear that Grindavik is not a place for children or for children to play. There are no functioning schools and the infrastructure is in a state of disrepair. The main hot water pipe to the town is leaking. It is believed to be under lava, but a failure is definitely being recorded. So people are advised not to tamper with the hot water settings in the houses. Cold water is not available and therefore no potable water. The conditions are therefore different from those that can be considered suitable for living in houses. So yeah, without cold water, it's pretty tough. And then they're also stressing there are many cracks in the ground in and around the town, and cracks can open without warning. The danger is estimated to be considerable from ground fall into cracks and crack movements. Yeah, they call this a hazard level called crack hazard, right? Crack collapse. Mitigation measures are and have been underway, which include, among other things, like mapping, a ground survey, geodetic measurements, and visual inspection. So they have done that, but the risk with this crack collapse hazard is it can continue. Even if there's no current eruption or earthquake swarm, they can get larger, they can expand at any time. A sinkhole can form at any time. There has been an incident, and a lot of you guys in the comments, you keep comparing this to the Blue Lagoon. Like, do you really have to wait until something happened? There was a tourist, an elderly woman, she was walking on a sidewalk when all of a sudden, without a warning, a sinkhole opened underneath her and swallowed her. They were able to get her out, but you know, this is the problem. The open areas in and around Grindavik, that's what they're saying, that they have not inspected them yet. And people should stick to sidewalks and town streets and avoiding to go out in open areas or fields. But as I just mentioned, in New Zealand, the sinkhole opened underneath the sidewalk. And yeah, you can hide sinkholes for a while if there is an artificial surface, like man-made. Because if there is, we have seen that in the indoor soccer hall that is there. So there was this artificial grass on top and you couldn't really see it, but the crack was open underneath. As soon as you remove that artificial carpet thing, the crack is open. And the same thing with paved roads or cobblestone sidewalks or something like this. It holds the surface for a while, although the crack might be open underneath, until finally the pavement gives way and then the sinkhole opens. We see these sinkholes all over the world in roads, especially in China. It happens very often that cars are being swallowed in these holes. So it might look safe, but is it really safe? And I think that's why they wanted the town closed, but the pressure became too much and residents felt treated unfairly. And especially since other businesses, big businesses that create a lot of money for the state of Iceland, were opened very, very quickly and were helped very, very quickly. So they're also saying Grindavik is closed to all but the town's residents, company employees, and those who need to help the residents. So maybe they can bring in some moving companies or friends or something. And they're saying again, there are still dangers in the area following that volcanic eruption at Stora Skogfell, and the conditions inside and outside the danger zones of that hazard map can change with little notice. So dangers can then be hidden also outside the marked areas. And they are also stressing again, land is rising again underneath Swartsengi. So they're issuing the QR codes for the residents of Grindavik and for those who work in the town, and they want to keep these QR codes valid for a longer period of time this time, so that they don't have to sign up for a new QR code all the time. So I think that's a good thing, right? It makes things easier. Once you have been assigned a code, you can keep it. Even if there is another evacuation or so, your code stays valid, because it will also keep the checkpoints on all entrances to the town where you check your barcode. So these posts will remain at Grindavik, at Nesvik, and at Suðurstrandarvik. So media people will be allowed to enter the town. Remember, the media has also sued the civil defense and the police chiefs of Sudorns, and they were super angry at the police chief because they said, it doesn't justify your actions. Why do you keep the press out? And the police chief kind of said he's siding with the residents because they were mad that after the November 10th incident, press was going into the town, and I think specifically one guy, and was trying to break into a home to, in my opinion, film the damages in the home, because there were so many spectacular cracks inside the walls, on the floors, foundations, and stuff like this. And of course, for sure, the residents felt being violated, that this happened. And since then, access to press was basically impossible, or on a very few, like 2 or 3 events where they were allowed in and to film, but they had to be accompanied by rescue teams. And even that was too much for some residents of Grindavik. They said, well, we're not allowed back in town, but the press can walk around and stand right at the edge of a crack and film it, but we can't go save routes to save our stuff, to get our products out of the businesses, to save the money. So it's been a difficult situation. They want to draw attention to the surrounding dangers that surround Grindavik. That's why they're saying they have 3 public defense sirens that have been installed in Grindavik, and there's also one of these at the Blue Lagoon and another one at the power plant in Swartsengi. And we knew when the last eruption started at 6 a.m. the sirens in the Blue Lagoon and the hotels were going off at 6 a.m. So too late, right? But at least something was going off. Maybe they evacuate a little faster next time, because the earthquake swarms did start at 5:20. So had the sirens gone off at 5:20, tourists would have had 40 minutes to get out of there, right? And that lava is flowing super, super fast. It's the fastest flowing lava they have ever seen there. So this makes it a little less predictable where it might go and how fast. They were very surprised how fast it did reach Grindavik. So it basically managed 4.5 kilometers in the first day already. So the police chief but also says that he does not expect many Grindavik people to choose to stay in the town overnight. Well, it's hard if you can't use the toilet, I would think. But he says they are allowed to do so, but I do not recommend it. That's what he's saying, right? The presence of emergency responders in Grindavik will be reduced, but the police will carry out statutory supervision in the town as it has been. So they have done this as well the last time when they opened it up for 24/7. They also told the residents, you're on your own, we're taking away the first responders. This time they're saying it's going to be reduced, so maybe there will be more in town. We will have to see. They also have on the town's website, grindavik.is, they say that there's more useful information for the residents that they can find there. And then they also refer to the website of the Icelandic Meteorological Office, where there's the hazard map that I'm showing you all the time. And so, yeah. we will have to see how that turns out and how long the town will remain open, because as I just said, the Met Office thinks 8 days or a few more days until we see the next eruption. That's why this new change that they can access the town will be valid till February 29th. Or do we have 29 days in February this year? Yeah, so if everything remains unchanged, it's valid until February 29th. That's what it says. I really have to look into the calendar if we have this year 29 days or 28. But anyways, till the last day of February, let's say that, then we're on the safe side. And since they are expecting an eruption by the end of February, it makes sense that they're already they're proactive, right? So it would probably be stupid to say this is in effect until end of March, when they know there will be another evacuation. And I think the residents, they have said this a few days ago, they are aware that there will be another evacuation. So regarding the cold water, they think that the first area that will receive cold water is the harbor area. So they think that they can do this by Thursday. So, but also they think that the whole distribution system in the town, the water distribution system, may still be leaking after all the earthquakes. So they haven't had a chance to control all piping and repairs. But they say they will find out within the next few days whether they will continue with the repairs once they are able to fully pressurize the system. And then they will decide if they will undergo the efforts to put in cold water into more areas in the future. The problem is we have another eruption in the works, and we know the problem is not the eruption itself, but the problem is the earthquake swarm that comes before the eruptions. On November 10th, this was really a massive earthquake swarm because magma was very, very forcing itself away into that dike, forming that magma dike. So that was a violent force that was going underneath Grindavik. That's why the earthquakes were larger and very intense. So that's why a lot of damage happened. And then it was fairly large on December 18th as well, when we saw the next eruption. And then the last one in February, it wasn't too much of an earthquake because the magma was using existing tunnels. So it was not that much force needed to force its way to dig tunnels through the earth. So that's why there wasn't so much new damage, but it is. They keep repairing, next eruption with earthquakes, more damage, or repairs, damaged again. So that's with the cracks in the road, with the pipes bursting. So they're basically starting from scratch, or even with more damage. So we will have to see how intense will be the next earthquake swarm that comes before the next eruption. If it will erupt at the same spot again in the Sutnuka crater series, it'll probably not be that bad. But if it's somewhere else, if it's flowing somewhere else, I will release a video later that they're thinking that the chambers with Fagradalsfjall, that it's all connected, and that even Iceland, whole Iceland, could be one volcano. But it could even be that, you know, there's more flowing towards Fagradalsfjall right now. So that is very interesting as well. But that was my update about what's going on in Grindavik, guys. Let me know in the comments. Do you think it's the right decision? Do you think it's safe? Do you think it's too much of a risk? Do you think it was necessary to treat the businesses in Grindavik fairly compared to what's happening at the Blue Lagoon? I'd like to discuss this, guys. And if you could, please leave this video a like. And if you're new here, I would love to earn your subscription, and I'd love to see you more often. That would really be awesome. So, and if you want to see my daily videos. I'll release videos daily. Click the notification bell. Some of my viewers have told me it's not super reliable with the notification bell, so they don't get the notifications. So I'd advise you guys, check out my start page on the Pulse with Silky here on YouTube so that you see when there's a new video, and also subscribes on my buymeacoffee.com/silky website. I will release some updates. If you're subscribed, you will receive emails when there's a new eruption. That is totally for free. Of course, a lot of people, you're donating coffees to me to support my farm, and the animals and I were so grateful for that, and also for your support here on YouTube for the supers you keep sending me. So thank you so much for that, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe. Bye-bye.